I've got a microphone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tech for Good. Hey, I'll just start on a toilet note. Has everyone managed to find the toilets? Yes. Anyone needs a toilet, speak to this lady. She knows where it is. Tech for Good. This is our third event. Thank you for coming along. It's amazing. And we're on a roof. That's pretty much all I have to say. I have to thank our sponsors. So Reason Digital, it wouldn't happen without them. Woo! We're going to do woos. 34SP, pizzas and beers. Whoa. Yeah. Tech Soup, they help us pay for Meetup costs. I know that's not sexy, but it's good. It makes you all come to this and you understand what's happening. Yay! So this is what's going to happen today. We've got Gabi and Max from Cyclehack on first. Then we've got Geri and Jonny going to talk about a product that they're working on that's been prototyped. And we're going to do some lightning talks. So I've already got some people lined up for the lightning talks. But if you want to do a 2-minute stand up to the microphone, who doesn't, afterwards, we'll sort that out as well. And then it's all about you guys chatting to each other and figuring out cool stuff. So we've got time to do that afterwards to the backdrop of a band. How cool is that? We didn't arrange that. It just happened to be on. But that's good. And there's a 3D printer over there. Also cool. This is the coolest event so far. I'm excited. So I'm just going to get on with it. This isn't about me talking at you because that would be really rubbish. So Gabi and Max, we've got a seamless transition here. We practice this.
Are you switching? Hi, everyone. Ow, every time I'm going to touch this, I'm going to get a shock. I'm Max, and this is
Gabi.
So we are here to talk about prototyping at an annual event we help run in Manchester. We've done it for 2 years now, called Cyclehack, which we've got at least one person here, Steve. Yeah, go Steve. Yeah, so Cyclehack is basically a global movement with over 40 cities around the world involved, with the aim to make the world more sustainable by reducing the barriers to cycling. So I'll give you a better idea about what that means whilst we go through the presentation anyway. So yeah, we're going to focus really specifically on the prototyping we do over the weekend, and what else was I going to mention? I'm just trying to guess which slides are on. So with prototyping in mind, it's best if we start off talking about what prototyping means to us as individuals. So my background is as someone who studied product design as well as I now work as a user experience designer. So I've kind of got experiences working in like prototyping stuff that's more physical, and now I'm prototyping stuff that's maybe like using pen and paper, and to the point as well to making something that actually works on a phone as well. And your point of view on prototyping?
Yeah, my point of view. So I have a background in business and in environmental management and policy, and I'm really interested in how to make cities more sustainable through experimentation. Because often, especially considering the case of cycling, we live in a country which is very car-centered and which really needs some kind of experimental approaches to envision new ways of getting around or also changing cultures. And therefore I find Cyclehack really exciting because it also makes this approach, which was previously used within business environments, accessible to the public and also applicable in cities, especially when you think of maybe sometimes people are not too bold to do an intervention or to introduce a policy. So if you could say, oh, it's just a prototype, it's a better product. So it's kind of an unfinished product that can combine different points of views, especially when you are in a city environment where there are very different stakeholder groups and different needs to address. So a prototype can really be a way to communicate an idea, and also a way to address citizens' needs, or how to communicate what can improve your cycling experience in the case of Cyclehack, which we now go through within our examples.
Yeah, so when we're talking about our point of view, we're trying to kind of get the idea across about, give a bit of background about us. But the main thing about Cyclehack as this weekend hack event is that we're getting all kinds of people coming along to it. So these are people that aren't typically from the tech community, they're from people from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of jobs, skill sets and knowledge, and that's what Cyclehack's all about. It's kind of getting everyone together with all these different mix of experiences, so they can actually help each other out and actually get involved and make something that helps make cycling better in a city. So we usually can kind of assume people know what prototyping means to them, and like, yeah, we'll talk through how people did this over the weekend.
Just to give you a sense of what people prototyped last year and this year, so Cyclehack takes place each year in June and was developed by a group of designers and cycling enthusiast people in Glasgow in 2014, and so last year was the first time that Cyclehack went global and was hosted in 25 cities worldwide. And actually last year, this time of the year, we were standing also here on the rooftop because we were hosting Cyclehack downstairs at Spaceport, and used this space and downstairs Stevenson Square to test our ideas. And one of those was Match My Route, which is kind of almost like a Tinder for cyclists. So if you are a less experienced cyclist and somebody who knows the area really well, you want to kind of maybe share your knowledge where to cycle. And so it's kind of a geographical focused app which uses geolocation and could identify your commute to work, and so match you with someone in your neighborhood who is more experienced and less experienced to kind of share this knowledge. And so then technology is used to create community or to connect people that didn't know each other before. And so over the weekend the interface was prototyped of this app, but also people went out here on Stevenson Square and asked people, what do you think about this idea? And also kind of made a little role play, which you can see here. So we had someone there who actually doesn't really cycle, and we had a huge bike there, and it was a bit, just for the video, we wanted to show like how both people meet and cycle off, but she actually almost fell off her bike because it was quite big. No, but that was, so it was a nice way to communicate, to show the challenges. And so that was Match My Route. Then we also had Chain Gang, which is kind of an Uber-style app as a repair service. So if you have a puncture, often you think you don't want to cycle because you don't know how to repair your bike, and how to get help when you actually have a puncture and you don't know how to repair it. You can press a button and somebody from your community can come and help you with fixing your bike. So again, like using tech to connect people that didn't know each other before. So that was another prototype from last year. And this year, two exciting prototypes were Button and Spokey, and both emerged from the idea how to reach out to people that normally don't cycle, because if you never think about cycling, how would you start at all? And their initial idea was have kind of an ice bucket challenge for cyclists, how to hand over a button to the next person to challenge yourself, both in developing a habit but also having access to a bike. And how these two prototypes were developed this year, we go through in a bit more detail now.
Yeah, so the best way we can explain how these kind of prototypes are made and like the process that all these people go through, or what we sort of teach over the weekend. So around the world, the Cyclehack HQ encourages everyone to break it down into these kind of 4 simple stages over the weekend, being that you start with by discovering what the idea is, then defining what your idea is, to then developing, which is more where the prototyping comes in, and then finally delivering it on the Sunday evening to the rest of the team. So the weekend starts on a Friday evening with some talks to try and inspire people and kind of get a better idea what prototyping means to us, for example. And then Saturday is a really short day where everyone starts kind of going through this process, and then Sunday you kind of show it back to a wider group about what you did and what your idea is and what your next steps would be. So I think Gabi's going to talk through one of the ideas, Spokey.
So in the case of Spokey, the discover, define, develop and deliver part was done, really started off on the Saturday. Then on Friday we got inspired by talks, and also it was nice to see that people picked up some of the ideas from the Friday evening talks to include into their prototypes. Because for example we had Paul Wilson there talking about social practice, so kind of from research perspective, how to build a practice of cycling, and I think that also influenced the prototypes that come out of it. So really thinking about urban prototyping, then I think it's also relevant to set the scene and get a bit more knowledge about when you do apply this approach to your city, what is relevant in this context. And since people come from different backgrounds and some maybe never have cycled, so it's also important to kickstart it off with some initial information. And we did a lot of brainstorming, so how can we reach out to people that never cycled before, and we're really lucky enough to also have people there that actually never cycled, like, or currently don't cycle a lot. So it was really good to get this experience on board as well, and to discuss and to better understand the barriers and issues, and if this initial idea would work in reality. And then by the end of Saturday, we further defined the idea and presented it for getting quick feedback. Then further on the Sunday, it was then coming from the post-its to the actual prototype, seeing what kind of material do we have, and what can we use as communication, because also prototype is really a tool for communication. It doesn't have to be really polished, or doesn't have to be perfect, but good enough to transfer rather than talking a lot, as we do now, but rather showing what you actually want to do. So we picked up a bike and gave it a personality which was spokey, and it was not just about the bike, but more about the personal experience that this bike collects along the way when somebody cycles. And so we went out to the streets and asked people, what do you think, how would you cycle, and what is barrier? And it's like having access to a bike actually in the beginning, but also sharing the experience, and also maybe also some positive experience, because often when people talk about cycling in Manchester, it's always very negative, and everybody says the infrastructure isn't good enough, but there are actually a lot of routes that people can share and a lot of knowledge there. And so a challenge is how to share this knowledge also in a positive way, and in a way that you can hand it over. So we're talking to people, and then with the initial idea, and then got feedback how to further improve it. And in the end, we also did a bit of storytelling and presented it back to the entire group. So it's also always a change of working in a small team and then communicating it to the broader audience to improve your idea. And in the case of Spokey, we really used things that were there. We had hire bikes from Manchester Bike Hire, who are now just off Deansgate. They're really great and always supported Cyclehack from the beginning. And we took this bike, thought of different ways, maybe add a GPS tracker to it to also see where beginner people cycle, so that can also inform transport planning, for example. So you can also see that the prototype is scalable and can embed more ideas. So this again shows the power of prototyping when you approach different stakeholder groups. And we also tested it online, so had a hashtag Spokey and tested if it would gain traction there. And instead of an online platform, we just used a logbook, like a little board, to sketch out things of information that a beginner cyclist would need. For example, where to find a repair shop, where kind of bike community events, or where are nice routes, and to gradually build up this information or the personal experience we want to connect with this bike. And yeah, so this was kind of the simple material, but it was enough to communicate, and I think that's kind of then the power of prototyping, to quickly get feedback and build up on this initial idea. And now Max will...
Yeah, so I'll quickly talk through what happened with the team Baton, as they like to call it. So this team was a three-man team. They started off with the discovery process, where they just looked into things they were really interested in terms of like problems and ideas. And from that, they just simply created some questions. They went outside and asked some people. And from that point, so they did a bit of fact finding. They came back and chose the theme that they found out from these answers they got from people outside, which was about changing routine. I'm not sure if I can remember that properly, but so with this idea about changing routine, they started brainstorming ideas to do with this, and they started to think about suggesting the best day to cycle to people. So from that, they came up with this idea, or like just simply joking around and saying about how about we just have a barometer that just says, pulls together like the weather in your calendar and all that stuff, and then goes, actually on Tuesday is actually going to be 90% the best day to cycle out the week, or something like that. So all they did was just grab a bit of polystyrene foam, got my screwdriver from somewhere, and drew on it. And then all they had was some weird little contraption that they went outside and just talked to people and said, okay, this is our idea. Like, let's say on your Tuesday, the weather's great and your calendar is pretty free as well, so you don't need to worry about rushing anywhere. And it would say, it's a great day. And they would say something about a bad day, and they would say that as well. And I thought it was great at that point, but a lot of people actually came back with, they weren't that interested in it. So that was a great thing of them just quickly making something, going outside, and they learned from that idea that they should try and change it a little bit. So they learned one of the key things was that people were suggesting things like family and friends would encourage each other to do cycling, which is quite an obvious thing when you think about it. But they were sticking very similar to the idea about changing routines. So this social aspect of changing routines, they moved on to the idea of a weird baton. So they just used a bit more polystyrene, which was laying around, and they just wrote on it called baton. And this idea was just to simply, you challenge your friends to do a bit more cycling, you'll suggest like when to go and stuff like that. So it was kind of building on the more social aspect, whereas I think more Spoku is more personal experience as well. And that's why the judges on the Sunday evening kind of chose those two people as the winner on that weekend to do a workshop afterwards. So yeah, and the key thing about these ideas at the end of the weekend is everyone around the world from all these different cities, they upload their ideas and their prototypes to a global catalog, which is an online catalog. It's open source, so it's under the Creative Commons license. And everyone can start to see where these kind of key themes are popping up, or it's the thing to do with, oh, well, someone must have done that already, or like, oh, well, it's an obvious thing. And then you start to see, actually, everyone seems to be doing the exact same things. Actually, maybe we should push this idea further. So that's kind of one of the key things I want to talk about a little bit later on.
And there's also the opportunity, once you have a prototype, it's also easy to communicate or for other people to pick it up. So now there's all cities after the weekend upload all their ideas, but also material that they have created. So for example, for their prototypes, people use GitHub and also uploaded the code. So now it's really free for everyone to further develop those ideas. And it's also nice to see what different challenges occur across different cities, because often you don't need to reinvent the wheel, because people, for example, in Amsterdam or Copenhagen cycle already, as we know, but they also, again, have different challenges, and to better understand and share this knowledge is also really powerful. And therefore, these are all the prototypes are now shared on the global platform.
It's also, so we were talking about at the beginning about what prototyping meant to us. The thing that we've been eager to learn from is like how teaching prototyping and this method of like going through this kind of 4-stage process over a week and how it worked. And we found out basically everyone's very keen to prototype and do stuff or just make things. Everyone gets very silly. They make stuff that just seems a bit wacky, but the fact that they don't overthink these ideas and they don't overthink like how they're making this prototype, they're not trying to make it really clever or visually pleasing. They just want to focus, or what we try and teach them is trying to focus on the questions they want to get answers from. And that's why, for example, like the barometer was made up. And as well as what I've learned in the past in seeing those guys outside, is that if something is like just a bit of polystyrene and a member of the public's just kind of walked up or got a bit disturbed by this group of 3 people asking questions, is that they end up using their, it's going to sound bad, but they're going to end up using their brain a bit more to kind of answer the questions. So they get a bit more creative, like imaginative. They have to use their imagination basically, because it's not all there. So that's
Also,
sorry, I was
maybe just to add to the making part, because I think often we are quite used to consume things and kind of to consume talks or to consume whatsoever products, and often it's difficult to get into making things and to really get our hands dirty in a sense, as also here, for example, on the rooftop to do things, and same applies to cycling and different cases really, and therefore it's nice to do it in a playful way and in a rapid way.
Yeah, so in terms of like the people that came to the event, they weren't typically from a tech background. They just seemed to grab onto this kind of 4-stage process, whatever you want to call it, for the weekend, which I think some of you probably are very familiar with, that kind of idea. It was really good to see that this process worked in a way that it made them open to change, so they would able to like pivot their idea a bit, for example.
Also talking about open to change, so also within Manchester we don't want Cyclehack to be just a 1-year event, but really also create a community and further develop the prototypes. So not just keeping it with the ideas that are now on the global catalog, but now also further developing to be usable products. And therefore, what we also did last year, we awarded the winners with the best startup potential to do a workshop. And in this case, it will be Button and Spokey, and we will do a workshop together with TechForGood, a design agency, and Things Manchester, which is an Internet of Things grassroots community. And so we want to bring different people together to further think of what are the issues, what are opportunities, maybe also some social enterprises and businesses to develop this idea, to have real impact in the city. And I think, yeah, and now kind of the challenge or the opportunities here are also how to facilitate this, how to reach out to people, and therefore I think we're also really interested in your thoughts. What do you think, how can we create momentum to further develop prototypes, to have impact on Manchester, and how to further share knowledge, or yeah, also your feedback on the process of rapid prototyping, and how we can further develop these prototypes to make them accessible to be used, and also to further encourage learning beyond the event.
Yeah, so if any of you kind of have experience with like doing something like a hack weekend in the past, or you've been to one yourself, like maybe talk, because we probably talked for quite a while now, maybe talk to us after or later tonight about kind of things that you've learned, and like share that with us so we can like actually progress, because at the end of the day we're just trying out things that we've learned in our day-to-day practice and trying at these events. We're sort of always learning. That's that's what the event's all about really. But yeah, if you, and we're very open to feedback. Do we have questions to do with we'll specifically focus on prototyping for now. Have we got time?
No.
Is there any questions to do specifically with the prototyping that was, for example, Team Batten and Team Spokey ones? Because we can end up talking about it more, but I think if you've got anything that you want to tease out, just ask us now openly. You can be harsh as you want. We can take it.
So. No. Okay.
No? Oh, no, we've got one.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm interested, the prototypes sound like were presented to them to be talked about. The challenge I always think in a hack weekend, right, is the limited time. Time box. And I think for me, I'm interested in how a prototype is something that you can leave with someone, or like to see it in use. I don't know, you hear about like what people say they do is always different to what they do. And so I'm kind of interested in how we resolve that. Because from my experience, we go out and talk to people from Meetup, which it can be, people say what they want. So I don't know, I'm kind of curious how we can find ways, maybe whether we split weekends or something that might allow time for people to use prototypes.
I think that's a really good point, and also talk. So, yeah, that's a really good point. And maybe talking from the experience from last year, where we further thought of issues with, for example, the chain gang prototype. So we were thinking of scenarios, because you would say, easily people can say, oh, this would work, or I would do that, or not. And there we did kind of a design fiction workshop. So think about fictional scenarios when you would actually use this prototype of kind of pressing a button, somebody comes to repair your bike, and then maybe it could be that somebody just spreads glass on the streets to increase your business, somebody tries to get you into a shady neighborhood to rob you or whatsoever. So there are issues that maybe then you wouldn't have expected when you just said, oh, of course I would use this service. So still it's the issue with the prototype, it's not yet used. So, and then I guess maybe workshops like this could help to further overcome this. But so far, we also still face the challenge how to actually make it usable. And what we did in the past, we hosted Cyclehack socials every other week or every other month to bring people again together, present some of the things we did, but also gather new ideas. And we also saw some of the prototype ideas reoccur all the time. Not all the time, but there are certain barriers or certain prototype ideas that were quite popular, and therefore it kind of proves maybe when you have a prototype and somebody else comes up with the same prototype, that it really would be a useful thing, like the Match My Route, for example, because people would say they would like to share the knowledge about routes around Manchester. So, and then it's really the challenge to translate it into something that you can actually use. And there we are also standing right now.
I think sometimes that getting funders there,
Yeah.
because there's no funding ongoing for these things. Often with charity hack events, I think that a lot of people don't have the charities there, and people just make stuff up. So it's, there's like been hackathons about homelessness a lot recently. And luckily they did have loads of people involved in homelessness, industry there, for want of a better word.
A vested interest that carry it on beyond the
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really good question. I think it's a really good problem with the hackathon.
And I think that's also often an issue with innovation and events. So it's sometimes like it's a short period of time, and then you get again into your routines and how to keep momentum and how to maintain people getting together. And what we also try to do now, we're also in conversation with TFGem and some other project where there would be funding to bring forward these ideas, because what I find really relevant is that these ideas come from the community, they come from people that understand the barriers to cycling, and often things or prototypes or projects are based on assumptions, especially when it's sometimes quite tech focused or very tech optimistic, and therefore I think that's another opportunity to feed into other projects. But then actually I guess a major challenge is to get the funding to do something that you can then actually test in the longer term.
Perhaps an opportunity to start that weekend with what you research, like product discovery, that has some more information to it. There's an assumption with any people as well. You can only really get to like assumption levels of like, so maybe it's just like qualified assumptions by spending like half a day doing some discovery. Whereas it's possible to like start that weekend with a set of assumptions that are a little bit more verified information to actually design value proposition.
I'll quickly answer that as well. So one of the things we thought is very similar to what you're saying after the weekend was we started thinking about, should we do something, because these the people that come along are sort of, you don't want to make them feel like they're doing too much work. So, and as well as the short time span, we did like 11 a.m. to 4 p.m, which is a really short day. We want to try and keep it snappy. So we've been thinking that maybe a week before we would do like a meetup or something that focuses maybe on something like discovery, and we're like, hey, this is some stuff, like here's a body of research that you can use. Start thinking about that. So maybe we break up the weekend, but we sort of want to say back to the guys at HQ about changing the format quite a bit, because the hack weekend is a really good, maybe that's the kind of key point to do the prototyping, for example. Maybe it should be split up over a few days or something, or like maybe 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. only on the Saturday once every week or something. But
because it's also again like when you bring together different, it's really great to bring together people with different skills and different interests. But then it's also like maybe your attention span does vary, or you feel maybe you like the ideation phase, you like to provide your ideas, but then you don't want to do the making. So how to split this maybe up, so to develop a process. So I think it's really an issue then of the process design that kind of keeps people engaged, but kind of is most efficient to for the outcome. Yeah.
I think just one more question.
I was just going to say, you mentioned that a lot of the people that sort of get involved aren't really from the tech side of things. So I imagine a lot of the prototyping you do is sort of imagination based, as you say. It's a sort of like, here's a styrofoam bin. Have you considered doing something like a development weekend? I mean, I know it happens a lot in the game dev community where you basically go 48-hour game jam, we're going to make this app, and the best iteration of this thing is going to be, whatever. I feel like if you had some, even if it's just a prototype app, that's going to, especially if you're talking about funding, that kind of thing would presumably feed into that quite a bit, because if you then go, look, we've got this development app, prototype app, it's absolute garbage right now, but you can see the basic premise in work. Have you thought about ways to reach out to the sort of development community? Because to be honest, developers get bored very easily. We like to develop whatever we can when we get the opportunity.
That's good to know. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe if you had like your community prototyping weekend, which got the ideas, how we can improve these things, and then you've got the ideas for all these apps, and you can go, right, we've got all of these ideas, here's the theme, run with it, and have a separate weekend that's specifically just for getting people who want to fiddle with stuff and make things.
I think that's a really good idea. That's actually something that also feeds into the thinking that we had with the workshop that we host with TechForGood and things Manchester, to specifically invite people that want to work on this particular.
Manchester is a great place to approach a bunch of nerds.
And what do you think? Because we had one comment from outcome from last year's app, which was the Match My Route app, and somebody approached one team member said, oh, we really want to further develop it, but then one person from the team said he's too busy to work on it now, and would also say maybe some developers because also would be maybe wouldn't take on an idea which already exists. I don't know, but what's your view on it? Because I think
like,
also
I think
Cyclehack is kind of different from traditional hack events, I would say, because it's.
Well, I think with like a jam event, if you went with something like, well, we've got these multiple ideas, which one interests you most, kind of thing, because obviously with this you came out with 2 different things. And even if you had multiple small groups of teams developing on, if you've got 3 teams making their own version of this one idea, you've still got the same, you can then look at it, so you look at how they've all approached this thing in different ways, and see what overlaps, what works and what doesn't. And pull it apart.
That's a really good idea. So kind of taking one prototype and letting it disperse again.
Gabi,
Like
yeah, good. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, thanks for that anyway.
No, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Sorry, I hate Q&As. Talk about it later, this pizza. Next up, let's see if this works.
Okay, my name is Jonny Evans. I'm Head of Design and User Experience at Reason Digital, that are exactly below us, 1 floor. If you, after the talk, if you happen to step over the balcony there, you would eventually land on top of our own roof garden. Don't do it, it's frowned upon. So we're going to talk about some work that... should we...
Yeah, I feel like a backing singer.
Absolutely. Are you going to sing, Joey?
No, luckily for you.
There we go.
Thank
There
you.
we go. This is Jerry, everybody. So we're going to talk to you about a research project that we did for an app called Warrior Down. And Jerry has travelled far away to come and speak with us tonight. So Jerry is from an organisation called The Well, and she's very kindly just going to explain to you who The Well are, what they do. Spoiler alert, it's amazing. So
Better be good now.
it will be. Go on, Jerry.
Okay, thanks. So good evening. I'm Geri Byrne-Thompson. I'm the business and commercial and operational lead for The Well. And what The Well is, it's an abstinence-based recovery community. So it was set up by a prolific offender called Dave Hyam in 2012. And Dave spent his whole life, his adult life, in and out of prison. He started using drugs at the age of 12 when it was in Borstal, and then when he turned adult age, was in and out of prison. Couldn't read or write, never had a job, didn't have a passport, couldn't be reintegrated into society because he'd never been part of it. And he came out of prison in 2012 at Lancaster Castle and realised that there was no services in the evening or weekends for people that wanted to sustain abstinence. So he did the 12 steps when he was in Lancaster Castle, and no support. So people's problems were just, thought to have gone away on Friday evening when services shut at 5 o'clock and not there again until Monday morning. So he taught himself to read, he went to university and worked in services, traditional drug and alcohol services. But it was really, he thought this is a real gap here, and he had a real passion. So with his own money, he set up The Well. And what he did is he rented out the Lancaster Boys and Girls Club and had it as a social club initially for people, and it just grew exponentially. So because of that, a lot of services were then taking note because people were then starting to comply. They take people, it's called mutual aid facilitation, to the AA and NA meetings. So actually not just signposting or giving a leaflet, but giving people phone numbers and actually taking people. And it's a thriving community now. So we've gone from just the Saturday afternoon in Lancaster to having hubs in Lancaster, Morecambe, Fleetwood, in Barrow. And we started in Barrow. Public Health England gave us some money, and we had one house in 2014, and we've now got 5 houses. And the council have just given us a 5-story building there, 48 feet long, to set up a recovery hub, because it's contagious, that people can actually see that lived experience, that guy that I used to use crack with is now got a job. How did he do it? So it's not a professional person telling them, but it's somebody that they know from their own community. And all the staff have got lived experience, except for myself. My background is probation, and I joined The Well in October to try and help them become financially sustainable. But all the staff have got lived experience of both offending, mental health, learning needs, as well as addiction. And that's what I think makes a difference, is that peer group support.
Okay. So what happened was we were given £5,000 by Comic Relief to test whether we could come up with a digital solution to help people in abstinence-based recovery. Anyone who works in a digital agency and has ever seen a PERT chart or a budget line, it doesn't take you long to do the maths of how tiny that budget is to actually deliver what it was we intended to deliver. We were quite ambitious, I think, with what we wanted to do. I'm aware now my next slide looks blank. Yeah, this is why it's a great idea. Oh no, to prepare a talk on the train home from London today. So Reason Digital partnered with The Well. So with Reason Digital, there's about 40 of us. We're a digital agency. We're a full-service agency. We design websites, apps. An app is what we're going to talk about. We do fundraising campaigns. We make some of our own products as well. We allocated 3 people to this project, one of whom is unexpectedly here. This is Rachel. Rachel was the project manager on this. We had myself as the designer and Ian, who is a researcher, who is sadly not with us. He's not dead. That sounded really dark.
I wondered.
Yep, he's still alive. I saw him today in London. I left him behind. Although Ian is in London on his own, and he has the natural survival instincts of a small child. Has anyone heard from him in the last 30 minutes? Okay, possibly someone died. We've got more than one researcher though, right? Paul's here. We're covered. We're okay. Everything's okay. We're on track. Okay, so we set out some objectives of what we wanted to achieve with this budget. So we wanted to do some research. We always begin every project we do grounded in research, and we wanted to provide a theory of change. We wanted to do a workshop with both staff and also service users at the Well. We wanted to test. Was there anything out there already that could validate whether or not a digital solution would work with our idea? So we set up a WhatsApp pilot group with some of the service users. We wanted to do a paper and this is stupid. We wanted to do a paper and digital prototype, and then we wanted to do user testing with it as well. The general premise of Warrior Down was within the Native American community. This is something that already exists, and there is a problem within the Native American community about drug and alcohol addiction, partly because they've been oppressed for so long. And when one of the tribe would have a relapse, a cry of Warrior Down would go up, and the tribe would rally around and offer support. So the early idea we had was a digital version of that, where essentially with an app you could press Warrior Down and the community would rally around you. That was kind of the idea. So this was kind of what this is based around. Okay, let's test that. Will it work? Okay. So the first thing we did was we did a workshop with staff at the Well, and we also did a workshop with service users at the Well. Really graciously, Geri let us go down to Lancaster and just invade one of their events, get people in a room and grill them. So this is old-fashioned theory of change, which is you grab a whiteboard and you grab a marker. Crucially, not a permanent marker, we learned. So essentially you start with the solution, which is to help someone recover from addiction. And then, okay, what needs to be in place for that to occur? So then you do that. Okay, what needs to be in place for those to occur? And you go on and you work backwards. That's kind of the principle of a theory of change. You could see this is a complex problem to try and solve. So we did a theory of change first. Then we ran the WhatsApp pilot. Now, I have Ian. Ian is the researcher who is disgracefully not here. So I'm going to deliver the research results. This is going to go splendidly, isn't it, Geri? Hey? Nobody's died yet. Hold on, he texts me. He texted me some love hearts first, and then he said, okay, so the WhatsApp pilot group ran for 3 weeks. That was the intention. We're going to run it for 3 weeks. And there were 13 users who volunteered to be involved in the WhatsApp group. They were aware that we were going to have access to the logs. It was really creepy, actually, and having that responsibility. It's a good job that Google and Apple are good people, right? And within that 3 week period, they sent over 4,000 messages within the WhatsApp group. And we had some concerns early on. Was we broadly said, here's what Warrior Down is, here's what we want you to do, here's what we want you to use a group for. Geri really kindly offered to moderate the group with kind of like a hands-off approach, only to step in if there was an issue. And my concern was that because it's a group setting, people wouldn't be willing to open up. People maybe wouldn't be willing to say, look, I'm in trouble, actually, I'm going through a difficult time. And also that would people even use it? People really used it. Ian, bear in mind a £5,000 budget, Ian had to go through those 4,000 messages that people sent. what was amazing was when people first started using the group, we had lots of really encouraging messages. People sent like inspirational photos, asked how's everyone doing, is everyone okay. They talked about events that they were going to, and after it took a few days for the first Warrior Down message where someone was like, look, I feel like shit today, I'm in trouble. And it took
17 seconds.
14 seconds, even
Way
less.
less.
14 seconds for someone to offer support, and that trend continued throughout. It was unbelievable. And when we met with the service users in the workshop, it astounded me the sense of community that there was. There was young people, there was old people, there were people from kind of like digital backgrounds, and there were people who had never seen like a phone before, and how excited they were about it and how willing they were actually to go and help. So we were asking questions. If someone was in trouble, how would you feel about helping a stranger? And this like young lad who, when he walked in, I was actually quite scared of him, like, this, don't look him in the eye. He was like, I will go round to his house and sit with him and help him through it. I said, but you don't know who he is, I will do that for him. Like, the genuine love in that community was astonishing, and the WhatsApp group really showed that. So it was meant to run for 3 weeks.
And it only finished last Friday.
This was months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 4 months ago.
And was there a spin-off WhatsApp
And
group?
there's been several splinter groups since then. So based on the location where people are, so we've got one in Barrow, one in Morecambe, one in Lancaster and Fleetwood. So, that's because people really valued the support that they got from that.
So people are, safe to say, people are willing to help each other through a digital peer-to-peer network. So that kind of tested that. Then we wanted to do a prototype. We wanted to do a prototype because we wanted to test it with real users, and we thought the best way to do that was to make something that they could kind of hold and do. Because of time, we had to be really, really lean. So rapid prototyping is great because you can test very quickly and very cheaply if your idea is very good or useless. My background is from product design. We would do these 5-day product design sprints, and the whole purpose was to decide if a client had a stupid idea or not. Would it work? Sometimes the answer was, it's a bad idea, don't do it. Sometimes the answer was, it's a great idea, go and do it. And sometimes was, there's maybe an idea here, let's test it, let's explore, let's go further, rather than spend £250,000 on something, launch it, and it doesn't work. So we first of all did a paper prototype that was purely for internal purposes. So we sketched out the entire user journey on post-it notes because they can be screwed up and thrown away or recycled very, very quickly, just as some kind of quick internal testing. Anyone who has looked down from the street up will know that we like post-its here. We're currently engaged in a post-it war with those guys, and we're totally winning. So we're used to post-its at Reason Digital. After the paper prototype, though, we then built a semi-functional prototype in a tool called Envision. So Envision is where you can basically design a product. You can then throw kind of the JPEGs and the photos of that in this tool. You kind of hotspot things together and users can click through. So we made a digital version that we could then take on it's actually still on my iPhone. I can show it if anyone wants to see it later. You can take it to real users, record them interacting with it. And everything we'd learned from the theory of change and the workshops and the WhatsApp group suggested that the simple idea of Warrior Down, pressing a button, wasn't actually sufficient. It wouldn't work. What we learned was that the idea of being down and in trouble was really constantly in a state of flux. It wasn't that you'd be in this period for a long period of time necessarily. We found people would go into the WhatsApp group, say, I'm feeling really crap, and someone would be, do you want to come to an AA meeting? And then like maybe an hour or two later, they're the one saying, hey, how's everybody doing? Here's something inspirational. So then the idea of Warrior Down and Warrior Up came into play, that maybe you could go onto this, you could use the product to say, I'm in a really great position, I want to help you. And how do we kind of like bring those two together? So one of the ideas we had is when the app opened that you'd be given an option, are you Warrior Up or are you Warrior Down? If you were Warrior Up, it would suggest that, maybe you can chat to someone who's feeling really crap today. But we also learned from the WhatsApp group that some people actually weren't necessarily interested in chatting. They wanted to go to an AA event or an NA event or just kind of hang out with someone. So this idea that you could, I'm feeling great today, I'm going to go to the cinema, anyone want to come along? The idea that you could kind of connect someone to an event that's happening. Some people as well just really loved it's beautiful WhatsApp group. People were sharing poems and songs and videos and photos. So some people just wanted to be inspired by that. So the idea that if you were feeling really, really crappy on a day, you could talk to someone who was feeling good. You could read something that was inspirational, or you could be shown in a meetup in your local area that you could go to. And again, if you were feeling really, really great, you could be connected with someone who was struggling that day. Or if you were feeling really great, you could create a user-created event. I'm going to the cinema, why don't you come along? Or you could go and you could read a section that was how best to talk to somebody when they're in trouble. So how to listen to someone, what sorts of questions you should ask, what sort of things maybe you shouldn't ask. So this was kind of the two streams that we showed. We were also really kind of concerned with privacy and protecting vulnerable people. We only work with, in the TechForGood sector at Reason Digital, so we work with a lot of charities and a lot of not-for-profits. We work with a lot of vulnerable people, so that's something that's always on our mind. And something we were concerned about was potentially the dangers of putting two people who are in a bad place together in a conversation. Like, is that a good scenario? That's where we had these two streams that would try and connect people who are on opposite ends there. But we also didn't want to restrict it, because what we also noticed in the WhatsApp group, that two people who were maybe struggling could inspire one another to help. So we were very careful to have lots of block and report abuse and all those kind of options in the app. The ability to change what kind of genders are able to contact you. The ability that if you were feeling really low, it was impossible to be bombarded. You had to accept somebody who wanted to talk to you. So those kind of things were all considered. The ability to create user-created content, the ability to see kind of inspirational stuff as well. All those things were included in it. And then when we'd done that and we kind of tested it internally, we took it again. The Well let us go down to one of their events, and we just grabbed people and put them in a. We didn't physically grab them; they were volunteers.
No, we don't allow that.
No one was handcuffed to a radiator for the user testing, and we tested it. So here's a screenshot of one of the tests. So it's a really kind of lean guerrilla user testing rig. We take a laptop, we take a camera. The phone is mirrored onto the screen. Photo booth records the user's face, and then we screen capture the entire screen. We take them through a user test script. Then we would provide a user testing report as well. Overwhelmingly positive. Actually, it's one of the most positive user tests we've done, which was surprising because I was kind of terrified going down because we'd done it so quickly. And even though all of the evidence backed up the solution, here's the thing about it, addiction. It's a politically correct condition. It can affect anyone in any walk of life. Okay, there isn't this sort of person is prone to addiction, right? So there were people who use their mobile phones all the time. There was this really sweet guy who so for the test, it was me facilitating the test, and Ian was kind of like a technician kind of running the rig, and the users would come in one at a time. And this lovely man came in who we'd met in one of the workshops, and the first thing he says was, "I'm so sorry, I'm going to be terrible at this. What's that? It's a phone. It's the first time I've seen a phone." He was terrified, and I was like, "Oh man, this is going to go so well." He flew through the test really, really well, and which was a really, really good validation of assumption was that anybody could use the app. That was kind of key to us. We didn't want it to be full of new design patterns and new interactions. It had to be, if you can use your iPhone, you can use the app. If you can use your Android phone, you can use the Android version of the app. Okay, so whilst there were lots of neat little functions and features in there, the chat screens look like WhatsApp because people are familiar with WhatsApp, like a mixture of WhatsApp and iMessage, or a mixture of WhatsApp and chat on Google. Those kind of things we were really, really keen on, which was really, really encouraging. The feedback was great. So we asked questions at the end as well that were, what would this app mean to you if this happened? And it was quite beautiful, some of the things you said that I'm not allowed to tell you. But genuinely really, really good. And yeah, essentially, I was really, really pleased with it. This is Ian's research bit. Ian, you scumbag. So essentially, the chance of relapsing without peer support is 24%. The chance of relapse within a peer support community is only 7%. Okay, which is a significant number. The research that Ian did before we started, he pulled some figures from 2014 and 2015, and I can't really see this very well. In the UK, 1.6 million people who were dependent on alcohol. The cost of the NHS was 3.5 billion per year. The cost to society is that right? 21. That wasn't for dramatic effect. 21 billion pound per year. I'm just going to move forward. This doesn't mean you've got to be my backing singer, Jerry. It's just so I can see. I mean, feel free by all means. In the UK, 380,000 people addicted to heroin or crack cocaine. The cost in NHS of that is 488 million per year. Cost to society is 15.4 billion pound per year. There were 12,043 drug and alcohol related deaths in the UK in 2014. Now, we were really conservative with the figures of if this app could help. So, for example, We only considered UK residents who were dependent on drug and alcohol and are actively in treatment for recovery. So we only considered those people. That's just 15% of everyone who's affected, okay? And of that, only those who have a smartphone, which was 67%. Those are the ones we considered when we looked at the actual what good this could do. So the figures are showing those most likely to be affected by the app. So per year, 217,777 people would be helped through recovery, of which 39,808 would have relapsed. £4 billion saving to society as a whole, this is per year, of which 731 million would have been lost, and 242 lives would have been saved that otherwise would have been lost. And that is genuinely conservative. This is why it fucking matters that we design carefully and that we design for stuff that is going to make a difference. This is why Reason Digital exists, to do this kind of stuff, and it was a privilege to do it. So Rachel's gone, good, because I was really going to embarrass her. So in the workshop that we did, that was genuine. The setup of the workshop was there was me in the room, there was Ian in the room, there was Rachel in the room who was taking notes in the corner, and there was all of the service users, and we're just asking them questions, and questions were bouncing around. And I could notice whilst Rachel was typing that she was crying a little bit. No one else could see because she was kind of in the corner, and then the workshop went on and she was crying a little bit more. And then one of the users said, we were talking about why this app would make a difference. He said, well, what if I've got my phone but I don't have anyone to call to help? Like, I'm in trouble, I have no one who can call. And at this I could see Rachel was like full on like blubbering in the corner. And we finished the workshop, and when I went for a walk with her afterwards, I said, are you, because everyone at Reason Digital are friends, like inappropriately close friends. We just spend too much time together. I spend too much time with you, Greg. And so I asked her, is everything okay? What's happening? And I know Rachel really well. She's a close friend, but this was something I hadn't known about her. And she said, if this app had existed, my mum would still be alive. And it just like broke me. And I've been in a room with people who are beautiful people, and everything they said was like heartbreaking, but that like killed me. And we only work on projects that are just like in many ways utterly depressing, because you want to help people, but the people want to help are like broken, vulnerable people who need help, and those stories are devastating. And it's wonderful when you do a product and afterwards you see that their lives are maybe better, or you've raised so much money to help Alzheimer's research, or you've raised so much money to be researching into cancer and stuff, so it's really uplifting. But there's a lot of Shawshank before you get to redemption, basically, and it was like absolutely devastating, but also quite wonderful when you think all of those figures were really, really encouraging and really, really impressive, and you think, wow, look at the money we could save, wow, look at those lives we can save. And you think of lives as like this kind of arbitrary number, but every single one of those people is somebody's mum or daughter or brother or sister. And we're talking about rapid prototyping as it's this cool thing you can do to very quickly validate an assumption. But if you're a designer here, you have a responsibility. There's a weight to what you put out in the world. That this is where Jonny Evans gets depressed, and you're all going to die at some point, and you're going to leave something behind. If you make a product that ends up in the hands of a person, it's going to have an effect on them. If not, you've made a terrible product if it has zero effect. In fact, no, you've made an utterly mundane product. If you make a terrible product, it's going to have a negative effect, and that's something we shouldn't be doing. Okay. The reason why rapid prototyping is good is that before you ship something to a person and affect their lives, you can test whether it works. But also, not only test does it work, test is it a good thing that you're doing. Because you can make something that really works that is like a terrible idea and it's just bad for people. Look at the App Store. There's many of them. So I ended on a really positive note. Everyone's going to die, and it matters what you make. But genuinely, that was £5,000 is a small amount of money, but you saw that a lot of what we did there was pen and paper on a whiteboard with 3 people. InVision is a tool that you can download for free and use. Just any kind of Sketch is very cheap. Photoshop, you can get a free trial. You can, if you have an idea, you can test the product yourself at home in your room, make a product, and you can just take it out. There's a coffee shop over the road. You can take it out and say to someone, can I test my idea on you? They won't mind if you buy them a coffee. If you have good ideas, don't just sit in your room and think about them. Make them quickly, make them cheaply, test them. Do they work? That's That was more positive than everyone's going to die, right? Yeah, okay. Because Bex loves Q&As, are there any questions? Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. So we've got time for three. We've got time for 3 lightning talks, 2 of which you've already taken up because I have. So come on, I know you don't want to. And I need a third, so you're gonna have to fight between yourselves, maybe. I don't know. Tech for Good, fighting.
Hello. I'm Ray from 34sp.com. We brought beer and pizza. Congrats. We're also a web hosting company. So why am I here talking? If anybody here works for a charity that is a registered charity that has website hosting that you're paying for, we will give you hosting for free. So come talk to me. We recently developed a WordPress hosting platform, which is pretty much faster than anything else I've tried. And we're giving that away for free to registered charities as well. So again, please come talk to us. Other than that, on a personal level, 34sp.com staff come together every year. We do a 24-hour gameathon, which we stream live. We raised £1,300 last year, which doesn't seem like a lot, but we'd never done it before. We'd never promoted it to anyone, and it was kind of done in about 24 hours before we'd planned it all. So that's happening on the 19th of August this year. If you like video games, again, come talk to me and help us raise some money for Shelter, is who we're giving money to this year. Thanks, that's it.
Hey guys, I'm Dave, and I guess I came here because my friend Mike does a lot of aquaponic stuff. It involves fish and food in a closed loop, and they use 3D printing and rapid prototyping. And said, "Hey Dave, I've double booked myself. Can you come and do this thing?" So I said, "Okay, Mike, I'll take your printer." And it brought me here. But 3D printing is really interesting. It's a great time to get into it. There's loads of printers you can get in the kind of £200 to £500 range. You can build them yourself. You can take them to user groups. There's fantastic filaments. There's carbon fibers. There's woods. There's see-through filaments. There's electrically conductive filaments, and you can go full circle from, you know, what's my idea to how do I want to draw it in CAD to will it go together to making it in a few days. And that's really valuable. And it's not just about the 3D printer, it's about the tools you can combine it with. If you can do the, you know, the corners and the really complicated bits with the 3D printer, and then you can do the straight and the flat bits with the laser cutter, suddenly you're moving your design on. You know, I saw a great table the other day made out of plastic pipes, like kitchen pipe, and then filled with concrete to make a rigid desk. So yeah, it's a fantastic time to get into it, and have a look at my printer. It's really tricky to print in the wind, so I've turned it down to 10%, but if the layers stick, then we'll be great. And thanks for having me.
So who's the third and final? Come on, someone must have something to say. Yep, come up.
Hi, my name is Katrina Kennedy. And closer, yeah, okay. So I'm an independent researcher in computer science, so it sounds a bit abstract, but I'm really interested in AI, artificial intelligence, and data analysis for social good. But one of the challenges I'm really addressing is basically participatory design and co-production of data analysis algorithms, and also data collection or data production, because the way that things are going at the moment, I mean, we've got Facebook and Google, and they're all collecting data on us, and there isn't really very much control that people have over this data analysis. So basically I'm just looking to start conversations with people. I mean, that's all. I don't have a product or anything like that, but yeah, and that's it. Yeah. Okay.
And because I made this happen, I'm going to tell you about the podcast we make, which is Tech for Good. So it's just more of this. Johnny's on it. Ben's on it. He's gone now. But he brought the ice. So thanks to Ben. Yeah. So if you want to hear more about Tech for Good, we've got another one. We do them monthly. There's one coming out soon. So that's good. And we've got the next event arranged. It's a big one. So we're at Co-op's fancy new Noma premises. Woo! Oh, that's spelt wrong. Emma Coleman. If anybody's heard of Emma, she's amazing. She's got loads of great stuff to say. She's going to be talking. The co-op are going to be talking about a bunch of the alphas. And Wayfinder is a really, really cool app which is looking at how to make technology and phone stuff for people who are visually impaired. So that's going to be amazing. I'm really excited about the next event. Please do come. It's 25th of August. It's a Thursday. And I hope to see you all there. We have bands on now, and we're allowed to stay, because that's really nice, isn't it? There's still pizza and beer left. And I'll see you at the next event. Thank you for coming.